The war continues to rage in Iran. We saw the United States strike Bandar Abbas in Iran. We saw Iran respond by striking United States air bases in Kuwait. Yet the Trump regime claimed that there was a deal reached this morning. They leaked it through Barack Ravid of Axios. Then we learned, of course, there doesn't seem to be a deal. Cycle that we see happen over and over again. Donald Trump's dark past continues to surface. He's surfacing it as he's completely losing control. He filed an amended complaint against the Wall Street Journal, claiming that the love letter, or I should say the birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein for Epstein's 50th birthday was not actually sent by Donald Trump. He said, "That's not my handwriting. I would never write such a thing." And it's defamatory to even suggest it. Also, we learned that Trump's DOJ launching a criminal investigation into E. Jean Carroll for the case that she won, where Trump was found civilly liable for sexual assault. And there's a criminal investigation out of Chicago into a survivor of Donald Trump. It's so utterly sickening. Also, Pam Bondi set to testify on Friday, although we don't believe she will be testifying under oath or on video camera, but we'll see about that. Also, Donald Trump continuing to turn Washington, D.C. into this grotesque thing, the UFC stage that's being built. He's like changing golden horse statutes. Now he's doing like 23.4 karat gold or something there. The asbestos hole that was the East Wing, it just looks gross when you see this overhead of the White House. You're like, what in the heck is happening? And to me, this kind of reflects what's happened to our country right now. What the American people are feeling is kind of what we're seeing right there in the Oval Office. PCE, which is kind of the main Fed metric on inflation, rose to 3.8%. The ability of Americans to save money has significantly declined. People are struggling right now while the Trump regime continues to grift and crime over and over again. We'll talk about some of the latest Trump family grifts as well. That and more on this episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. We got a lot to discuss, so I just want to get into it right away. Brett and Jordy, how are you both doing?
Doing great. It's great to be here, Ben. Great to be here, Jordy. Great to be here, Midas Mighty, for another episode of the MeidasTouch Podcast. There's been so much news today to keep track of, so I agree, Ben. Let's get right into it. First, I got to check in with Jordy. Jordy, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, brothers, Midas Mighty. Excited for today's show. If you can and you haven't already, please subscribe to the audio feed of this podcast. It's very helpful. Wherever you listen to podcasts on audio, subscribe to the MeidasTouch Podcast. Benji, where are we starting off today, big bro?
I mean, look, the Trump regime claims that there's a ceasefire right now. And then when it strikes Iran, it says, ooh, it was just a defensive strike and the ceasefire still holds. And then we see Iran responding to the U.S. striking Iran like it did in the port city of Bandar Abbas. Iran responds. Then it strikes Kuwait. Iran releases videos where it's hitting the U.S. Air base in Kuwait. And then Trump's like, this was defensive. Or like CENTCOM, we this is not offensive, and the ceasefire is still holding right now. And this is what, every other day now we see something like this happen. So, most recently, Iran's Tasman news agency also posted that hostile aircraft just in the past 3 or 4 hours was intercepted earlier over the Bashir province of southern Iran as well. And again, it seems that another MQ-9 Reaper was downed over the Iranian coastal city of Jam. We saw another MQ-9 Reaper over the weekend. And so let's just face it, there's no ceasefire right now. When Barack Ravid of Axios posted again this morning, I mean, just so shamelessly, there was a... Do we have the Barack Ravid post as well? Because like when you break down what he says and the elements of it, yeah, this is... it always has the two sirens, which going to make it extra BS-y. And then it says,
there are four sirens in this one. Let's not downplay it now.
Four sirens in this one. It goes, the U.S. and Iran have reached an agreement. Okay, so you read this first thing in the morning, like, oh, we did? On a memorandum of understanding. Okay, so an agreement on a MOU for a 60-day ceasefire extension and the launch of negotiation on Iran's nuclear program. But Trump has not yet given his final approval. 2 senior U.S. officials and a regional source involved in the mediation told me. I don't even know how you can take such a statement like that seriously. So the agreement is to potentially enter into a memorandum of understanding, which, if entered into, would provide for the possibility of a 60-day negotiating period to perhaps negotiate a deal regarding Iran's nuclear enrichment.
I don't know what's confusing to you about this. I mean, it's another possible framework of a concept of a memorandum of understanding for a deal that could or could not be negotiated in the future. Alarm bell emoji! Alarm bell emoji! We did it!
Corporate news, man, is just so human. Like, how can he put that out there? Like, with no shame. Like, no shit. Like, total, like, what embarrassment this is for Axios.
Right. Well, look, the sequence of events also, right? You had the U.S. striking Bandar Abbas. Iran responds. So already the markets are looking shaky, right? Heading into Thursday. Then you get the PCE inflation numbers, which is like the main metric the Feds use. There's CPI, consumer price index. There's PPI, producer price index, which is like the wholesale price. So right now, CPI was at like 3.8% or so. PPI was at 6%, which is kind of an indicator, because if wholesale inflation's at 6, guess where that gets passed on? To the consumer. So that CPI follows kind of the PPI usually. And then we got the PCE, we got today's, which is the kind of main metric of the Fed. And today we saw over here, so the PCE inflation, the Fed's preferred measure, that rose to 3.8%. And that seems to be ticking up about 0.2 to 0.3% month over month. And the Trump regime was like bragging about that. It was only 0.2. It wasn't 0.3. Lots of people said it was going to be 0.3. No, y'all said you were going to cut it in half and have no inflation, by the way. But just do the basic math. So if we're right now in May, and every month it goes up by 0.2. Again, I'm not some crazy economist here. I'm not a Fed chair. I'm not a central banker. But if it keeps going up 0.2, what does that make next month? 4. What does that make the month after that in July? Let's just say 4.2. What does that make August? 4.5. What does that make September? 4.7. 4.8. What does that make October? 4.9. 5. So when I'm here saying, I think we're going to hit 5% PCE or CPI, and when we hit it, people are going to be like shocked, right? And people are like, what? How did this happen? Just do like literally the most basic math. So that data comes out this morning. By all accounts, this should be really bad. So then Barack Ravid posts that story though. And then the NASDAQ and the S&P and even the Dow, right? It surges on that news that, okay, we're out of it. And then the headlines are like, it seems that we've made progress. And I'm like, are you watching what actually is happening right now? Are you seeing that the U.S. struck Bandar Abbas? Are you seeing that Iran hit a U.S. air base in Kuwait? Are you seeing that Israel's escalating in Lebanon? That the entire city of Tyre, which in Arabic you call Sur, has been evacuated, and Israel's just demolishing and leveling this historic city there as they're leveling Beirut, while Netanyahu's bragging about controlling 60% of Gaza and says we want 70% of Gaza to continue the genocide. While all of that's happening, our corporate news is acting like we've made it to some peace deal, and the markets are responding to that. And then to me, it's not a shocker that a few other things happened today. Donald Trump really was nowhere to be seen today, like kind of nowhere to be seen. And I think this is also related, personally giving you my opinion, to that highly suspicious trip he took to Walter Reed, which they said was for dental work, and his regular checkup that he now gets every 6 months. And he said, I'm in perfect health. I'm going to release immediately my health report. It was just a social media post. And then corporate news like, he says he's healthy. Donald Trump tested himself and he said he's healthy. But who was the person out there speaking today? Treasury Secretary Bessent, right? Because market manipulation Thursday. So you have Bessent out there. And to me, what Bessent is doing is he's also signaling to the oligarchs, let's keep this thing going. Let's keep this thing going. Don't worry about all that news. Let's keep this thing going. That's why I think they put him out there. I think was also to send coded message to the business community also, but I'm not trying to get conspiratorial here. So he goes up, he does the press conference today. No one knows where Trump was for most of the day. And then he goes, we succeeded. We changed the regime. It was regime change, but I need to make this make sense what he just said here. Play this clip.
With the Iranian government, we did not have regime change, but we changed the regime. As President Trump said at the cabinet meeting, as we've said other times, the first layer of leadership was eliminated, the second layer, and we're now at the third layer. And the way to think about it is the Iranian government, such as it is three pillars. It is the elected government, it is the IRGC, and it is the clerics. And they are having trouble communicating. So we are being patient.
Okay. They're not having trouble communicating. I quite literally see them communicate every day. I can see the communication, and it's very clear. I see Ayatollah Mojtaba Khomeini's posts. I see the IRGC posts. I see the political side posts. Political side, MB Ghalibaf, Foreign Minister Aragchi. I know who those players are. The IRGC. I know Moshe Reza. I know Abraham Azizi. I know who they are. I follow what they're saying. I hear them speak. And then on the clerical side, I hear them speak as well. I see the messages that they're posting. And there are some areas where there is disagreement, where it seems some of the more IRGC people don't want any deal. They think that they've won so much that they should make no concessions. The political people, Aragchi and MB Ghalibaf, they believe that they've improved the standing of Iran internationally, and that in and of itself is a win, and don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory because the world views Iran differently. So let's not entrench further. And then you have the Ayatollah as well. And the Ayatollah kind of sits above all of it. And, occasionally kind of chimes in with these kind of broad platitudes, but I see their statements every day. So that's what's going on. It's regime change, but it's not a regime change. Okay, just stop with the BS. And then that followed Donald Trump's disastrous cabinet meeting, which was supposed to take place at Camp David, but then they blamed it on the weather, even though the weather wasn't all that bad. So they did it at the White House. Okay, another kind of red flag right there after Trump's visit to Walter Reed to say, we're going to Camp David. We're not going to Camp David. We're staying here. And then he just isn't anywhere to be seen. But then Donald Trump very casually talks about blowing up Oman because the United States has so alienated Oman. Oman was the negotiator last February who had the deal between the United States and Iran that the U.S. and Netanyahu, after a deal in principle was reached, they then invaded Iran. And now Oman is entering into deals with Iran directly. The Sultan of Oman has stated, we have to move, we're moving closer with Iran right now in a lot of these things, including in the Strait of Hormuz. And so Donald Trump just very casually is like, yeah, we're going to blow it up. We'll blow up Oman. That's what we'll do. Here, play this clip.
Interesting reading for people.
On the Strait of Hormuz, Mr. President, Iran wants control of the Strait of Hormuz. Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
No, the strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control
It's
it?
international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
We'll have to blow them up. Also, if you're watching, for audio listeners, I'll just describe the scene there. You have Rubio on one side, you have Hegseth on the other. They both look like they have deer in headlights. And Rubio has a Trump hat in front of him with Donald Trump's signature on it. Like has a signed hat by Donald Trump. Like, how weird is it that the guy has a signed red hat signed by Donald Trump in front of him during a cabinet meeting? I don't want to normalize that fact. So after Donald Trump then talks about blowing up Oman, He then says, well, if we're going to do this deal with Iran, then I need all of the Arab nations. They owe it to us. You must become allies with Israel. You must do it. You must join the Abraham Accord. I'm going to mandate it. Here, play this clip.
And we'd like to have the countries we were talking about with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and the others. We'd like to have them immediately join and Steve Witkoff is working on that with Jared and some others, but would like to have them join the Abraham Accords. It'll be historic if they do it. And I think they owe that to us, to be honest. I think, because that really would be a tremendous sign. And I think those countries owe it to us.
They owe it to you to become allies with Israel because you and Netanyahu invaded Iran, embroiled the entire Middle East in it, had a failed security umbrella. So all these Arab nations were then attacked, which they warned against. Their economies are being absolutely destroyed right now. And so now they owe it to you. Like, you gave them a gift here, that if the U.S. is going to have a peace deal with Iran, that they need to enter into an alliance with Israel, when that would actually result in a lot of these Arab nations, monarchies being toppled if they did that. And they've made it very clear, and they've drawn their lines, that they're not talking about the Abraham Accords until Palestine is recognized by Israel with a two-state solution, with East Jerusalem being the capital of Palestine. Like, I know for Donald Trump, words are so meaningless. He stands for nothing. He has no value. So for him, it's easy to say, I don't care about NATO. I don't care about Article 5. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. But this isn't some sort of transactional thing. Hey, if I do a deal with Iran, you want to scratch my back here? You gotta be friends with Netanyahu. I do this, you do that. We do a trade. We do a little barter. I got you. And they're like, we're not doing this. I mean, we've heard from Saudi Arabia and Turkey and Qatar, and all this does is show Donald Trump is weak and desperate. The same way when Donald Trump strikes the port cities of Iran and kills some people on the fishing boats there, or attacks a few people, that doesn't show strength. That shows weakness. When Donald Trump's out there and Southcom or CENTCOM are posting the videos of killing the people in the fishing boats without due process, that doesn't show strength. Oh, the United States Air Force and Navy can kill people on fishing boats without giving them due process. You can slaughter people. That to me actually shows a lot of weakness, and it doesn't show strength. And that's what the rest of the world sees right now. And so what I think the Middle East countries are looking at right now is they go, look, this guy's pathetic. We have to figure out a way out of this. We relied on the U.S. security architecture with bases, so we can't get out of this right away. Like, we're a little stuck right now, so we have to be a little careful. But they're looking to China. They're looking elsewhere, and the entire security architecture is changing before our eyes, Brett and Jordy.
Absolutely. Donald Trump is, basically handing the status as sort of the world superpower over to China in these situations, and is giving them immense power. Like Ben Rhodes said in the interview with you, like China, despite all of their flaws, are this stable power, and we're like the erratic, crazy people who you don't even know what to do. How do you even negotiate with the United States? And one thing we've heard throughout this entire process from Iran, going back to the beginning, is that they are having difficulty negotiating with the United States because the United States isn't consistent in its positions. Every single day, they seem to be changing the terms as to what they want in these negotiations. And what this kind of did, though, is that it put it out in the forefront, right? We're seeing right now Donald Trump changing the terms of these agreements in real time. Before, he had all these other demands about, nuclear and this and that, none of which are being reached at all. This right now has essentially become, we just need to open up the Strait of Hormuz, which was opened before the war, which shows you how much of a failure this thing has become. It hasn't become, we need to get freedom for the Iranian people. No, it's become, we need to open up the Strait of Hormuz, something that was already open before. But this, to me, shows you Donald Trump's kind of strategy of moving the goalposts in order so that he has an excuse not to get the deal, to try to act like Iran is being the irrational actor here, when everything Donald Trump says about Iran and their inability to communicate and their inability to figure out what they actually want is actually what's happening in the Trump regime. It's more psychological projection coming right now from Donald Trump and the people around Donald Trump. But to, at this point in these negotiations, to all of a sudden throw in that Saudi Arabia and all these other countries need to join the Abraham Accord, something that's a complete non-starter. It just shows that you're not serious about this. And anytime you get close to a deal, he's almost looking for a way out of the deal. I think it's just very revealing of the posture of the United States and how these aren't good faith actors going into these negotiations. Also, I think that the entire scam has really been exposed between what the U.S. and Israel has been doing and the language that they use throughout these attacks. And this is certainly not something new, but nobody has been more brazen about this than Donald Trump, the Trump regime, and Netanyahu. And you see it play out all over the world, right? When you have Netanyahu out there and he's leveling Gaza or he's leveling Lebanon, what does he say? Oh, it was a preemptive strike. We were going after Hamas. It was defensive. We had to defend ourselves. We had to protect ourselves. When the United States goes and starts attacking Iran, it was preemptive. We had to defend ourselves. We had to do it before they nuked us. They would have nuked the whole country. I mean, the fact that you could even say with a straight face with these last strikes over the past few days, the United States struck Iran Monday and then Wednesday. And the fact that you could even say that those are defensive strikes. I mean, you know where Iran is on a map and the United States is on a map? Y'all are 6,000, 7,000 miles away from each other. And so you're now claiming that it's defensive when you are way over here, when you were the ones who initiated this war. And now you are bombing on Iranian land once again, saying that it was preemptive because you were worried that they looked at you the wrong way or that they were going to attack you. Like, these excuses to me, to any sort of under any sort of basic scrutiny, just don't seem to work. And they just say it anywhere, right? It's like there's a boat in the Pacific Ocean. Oh, we had to bomb it. We had to protect the American people. Like, are people really falling for this crap? It seems to be the most brazen way to provide some sort of justification, no matter how loose that justification is, to just go around the world, bully people, blow people up, kill people. There's no actual reasoning behind really any of this stuff. And I think it's just more transparent than ever in 2026 when you just see how brazen that they are being with these arguments.
Absolutely. And like, in my opinion, so long as Trump can continue to run this sort of market manipulation play with folks like Barack Ravid and Axios doing their bidding for Trump, Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care how long this goes on because he doesn't care what the American person's paying at the pump. Doesn't care at all. He doesn't care what danger he's putting the United States troops in. He doesn't care about that. So long as Trump and his oligarch buddies could basically run up the market, they're fine with this continuing. I think that's why we see the goalposts being moved. I'm not trying to get in Trump's brain here because he's such a loser and he does not know how to make a deal, if he ever did, when he actually was in business, let alone now the president of this country. He doesn't know what he's doing. And so his only play, I guess, is to grift and to get his oligarch buddies super friggin' rich along the way. And so I think he's gotten really friggin' comfortable here about where and the position that we're in right now with the war. He doesn't care. He doesn't care how much this hurts the American person. He doesn't care how much it hurts our soldiers. He'll just keep doing this. I think that's why it feels so repetitive day after day.
Well, he's also trapped
the
himself,
alarms
right?
From Ravid and Axios. Like, it's so stupid.
He's trapped himself also. Like, there's no good option. And for all intents and purposes, Donald Trump has lost this war. It's a complete and total humiliation. And it's just undeniable at this point. Go through every single listed objective, and these objectives have been shifting the entire time. But the United States has completely failed throughout this war. So what happens when you lose a war? Well, you have to make concessions to the other party. But those concessions would make things much worse off for the United States than before the war, for the United States than with the negotiated agreement that Oman was looking over prior to this war starting, without any of the bloodshed, without the billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars spent on this war. This could have all been avoided, and the United States could have actually ended up with a better deal, possibly a better deal than the JCPOA, the Obama bill, at least per what the reporting was at the time. But Donald Trump did not choose to do the negotiation negotiation route. He chose to do this route. And quite frankly, when Donald Trump continues to bring up Israel as his justification for everything that he's doing, to me, if you are the most ardent supporter of Israel, you should be appalled by Donald Trump doing that, because it's just feeding in to every single thing that has been apparent from the start of this. The reason why Donald Trump entered it, his association with Netanyahu, the way him and Netanyahu have been working together, and Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir say to Donald Trump, publicly making statements, we will not let them make a deal without us approving it. Why? Tying those things together to me is probably the most damaging thing possible to Israel, to the United States, to this entire relationship. And I think it's one of the reasons you're seeing such anger right now. And because people are sick of this, the lies and the deception and this framing around it all, and people leading us in to more war that just simply does not need to take place. It's not an American first thing, yet we just keep seeing this every day. And Donald Trump just is so quick to mention Israel as an excuse also for all of his actions. I think it's just no good for anybody here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because that's what's happening. That's what's going on, and so that's why. I also think that the Supreme Court's absolute immunity decision, which basically said, look, he can't be charged with murder. He can't, as long as he says it's a function of Article 2, there's no ramifications. I think that also gives this kind of free reign of, well, I'm going to kill this person. I'm going to kill that. Look, I'm just going to rip down the East Wing. I'm going to go to war, and I'm not even going to try to pitch it to the people. I'm not even going to try to explain why I'm doing it. Right. I mean, the foreign policy version of ripping down the East Wing. I don't care. Just rip it down. We'll deal with it later. I'll just freaking bomb it. I'll bomb Oman. I'll bomb you. I'll bomb this. I'll bomb that. And then we'll deal with it later. And then we'll figure it out. Well, guess what? Later comes up. The bill becomes due. And people are like, okay, well, what are you doing? What are you going to do right now? And his move is what he's done his entire life, which is the fraud. We've done it. We control it. We control the Strait of Hormuz. We're winning. We did it. They don't have leadership. Okay, well, you can keep on doing this, but what? The last time he did this with COVID, fortunately, he loses the election. Somebody else comes in, fixes it. Very difficult to fix it. Inflation surges. We suffer. The person who's fixing it, Biden, gets blamed for it. He fixes it. He gets us out of it. We start heading in the right direction as we're kind of making this gentle, soft landing that nobody thought was possible. Trump wins the election, and then it's like, when those planes are landing and then they come back up and then they don't make then it goes back up, and then the turbulence, hits again. The big problem right now is that, yes, we have the midterms coming up. We don't have a general for another 2 years happening. And so unlike the 2020 COVID version of this, we're now, is he going to drag this out for 18 months? Is this where we're going to be 2 years from now? Look, it's clear what needs to happen. What needs to happen is he needs to make the deal with Iran. Iran and Oman control the Strait of Hormuz symbolically. That's what will likely need to happen. Then there'll be some other kind of international guarantees that can be layered on top of that if there isn't any free passage, that status can be revoked. No one likes that, but that's likely what needs to happen right now. Iran will enter into a JCPOA style deal that'll look like the Obama deal. You bring that in, you give sanctions relief to Iran. You write, you either write him a check or you unfreeze $26 billion. And you come up with a containment strategy. Maybe you lean on China, maybe you lean on Europe, you lean on a broader coalition to ensure that the Strait of Hormuz doesn't get closed again. You have to concede a little bit because you didn't win, your objectives weren't achieved. The Strait of Hormuz opens up. We try to focus on domestic issues and the economy, and maybe the U.S. rethinks also its position about having bases in the Middle East in the first place, and we don't need a $1 trillion. Maybe you can spin this as a positive. Why do we need $1.5 trillion? Let's put that money to domestic issues, and let's figure out a different security structure that leans more on NATO or leans more on foreign countries as well to deal with it. And we focus on domestic issues. To me, it's something more along those lines that needs to happen. It seems pretty obvious, but continuing to just be frozen isn't a solution. And then having people like Scott Jennings, who gets destroyed by Adam Mockler on CNN, go, this is a great deal. We won. I mean, he just made a post like that today. This is an amazing. We've gotten everything we wanted. What do you, this is a real post from a human being. Scott Jennings, who CNN has on, looks like a huge win for President Trump and the U.S. Hearing from a senior administration official, this report is true, and the U.S. appears to be getting everything we want. What does that even mean? What are you talking about? Like, when you say something like that, you should never be able to say anything again, like on this topic.
You know how you know the U.S. has not gotten everything that the U.S. wants? Because Donald Trump hasn't signed a deal, because no one signed a deal. If a deal came to you and it was everything you'd want, you'd say, oh, this is everything I want. We have a deal, not this isn't actually a deal. We'll have to think about it for a little bit. We'll see what happens. Not only is Jennings featured on CNN, but Scott Jennings is paid by CNN. He's a paid contributor, correspondent on CNN. It really is atrocious. And who retweeted that? Effectively, I know they say retweets are an endorsement, but screw that. You know who retweeted the statement by Scott Jennings? Barack Ravid of Axios, apparently agreeing that this is the U.S. getting everything we want. It's so disingenuous, and this is the corporate media that we have to deal with, right? This is the environment that we have to deal with. And Ben, you just listed a whole array of issues in our country and the destruction of our country by Donald Trump, and that's why our great corporate media here apparently is laser focused on the issues that matter. Donald Trump, Joe Biden's debate in 2024. Laser focus still.
Laser focused on Joe Biden's debate. We'll take our first quick break of the show. A reminder, everybody, hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. We're so close. Double check that you are subscribed. You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. Turn your notifications on YouTube also. That tells you when there's new videos that drop. So make sure notifications are on. Also, become a member of our YouTube channel. Join, you click join, and you can gift memberships to other people. We've got exclusive podcasts, exclusive content, access to the emojis, and more. Make sure you join. And if you can afford to gift memberships to others, gift those memberships now. I love to see it in the chat as I watch. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. We'll be right back.
I've been there before when your car starts making a weird sound and immediately you start thinking the worst. How much is it going to cost me? How am I going to get whatever this is fixed? And these days, even a basic repair can turn into thousands of dollars out of nowhere. I know you've probably been there too. That's why CarShield makes so much sense to me. CarShield helps protect you from those massive surprise repair bills with flexible month-to-month vehicle protection plans. They've been doing this for over 20 years. They cover over 2 million vehicles, and they work with ASE certified mechanics and repair shops nationwide. Plus, you get 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, and rental options included. And I like that the deductibles are low, because the last thing you need during a breakdown is even more stress on your wallet. Look at the facts. Repair costs are soaring, and modern vehicles are more complex than ever. Waiting for your transmission to fail before you act isn't just a bad idea, but it's also bad math. Get ahead of the curve with CarShield. Right now, CarShield is offering our listeners 20% off with the code Meidas at carshield.com/Meidas. Visit carshield.com/Meidas to lock in your coverage today and protect yourself from expensive car repairs. Again, go to carshield.com/Meidas and use code Meidas, MEIDAS, for 20% off. Let me tell you, if there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after drinks with friends, it's with pre-alcohol. Look, I'm not 21 anymore. If I have a night out, I still want to be productive the next morning, and that's why I started using this. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking, and here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I was honestly skeptical at first, but I tried it before going out to dinner with friends, and the next morning I was getting up early, but I was feeling good, getting work done, no problem. Now it's just part of the routine anytime I know that drinks are involved. From the crack of the bat at the stadium to the start of wedding season and the roar of the engines in Indy, May is packed with with back-to-back reasons to be out. Don't let a rough morning after keep you on the sidelines. Drink pre-alcohol to stay ahead of it and make the most of every Saturday this month. Go to zbiotics.com/Meidas to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use code Meidas at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/Meidas and use code Meidas at checkout for 15% off. That's MEIDAS.
Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Shout out CarShield, man. They've been a good sponsor for us recently. We're excited to have them on board. And ZBiotics, always a fan favorite here. So if you're in the market for those products, definitely check them out. We have some really good discount codes for you there. Real quick, Benji, before I kick it back to you, it's just like, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because honestly, he doesn't merit spending too much time on it. But like the Scott Jennings aspect of this all is just so deeply, pathetic, because I think it's just a larger symptom of what's wrong with our corporate media. Like the fact that he is a paid contributor on CNN and purports to be this like, I'm calling balls and strikes type of guy. And like, that's how they frame him over there at that network. And he's just a shill. Like there are so many shills for this Trump regime, and it's so utterly pathetic. Like the fact that he would go out of his way to talk about what a win this is, quote tweeting Barack Ravid's tweet about the deal for the Trump regime and all. It's just so pathetic. And it's just because he thinks so little of you, like the viewer. He thinks so little of the American person, and he thinks he's like this like big time celebrity. The guy is a loser, like capital L loser, who debases himself every chance he gets to just, I don't know, keep Donald Trump happy. It's weird.
I don't think anyone's confusing him, though, for a guy who just calls balls and strikes or like some centrist or whatever. I mean, he is a shill. He presents as a shill. He's like, he's like the Trump White House unofficial spokesperson. I'm just saying,
that's like his like sort of shtick. At least he puts forward.
I almost think it's worse, right? I think they really want to appeal. They think it's more important not to appeal to the actual center of the country or the things that most Americans actually agree on, but they would prefer to put somebody who is MAGA on their show so that they could appeal to the Trump administration. I think it's given the Trump administration something. We're going to take your voice and we're going to put you on CNN, and we are going to try to blend it in as just one of these other voices, right? It's just this both sides thing. So we're going to have Scott Jennings, and then we'll have somebody like Adam Mockler who's actually telling the truth and who's actually telling you facts. And we'll leave it to you to decide. Maybe the truth is just somewhere in the middle of this extreme MAGA guy and the actual facts that are out there. And Jennings gets reports direct. I mean, he said it in that post that we showed, right? He gets his reports directly from the White House. They tell him what to say on the air, and then he says it. He is quite literally their mouthpiece from everything that I hear, from everything that I've seen from him. And so I think it's almost more devious. And I think it's part of the effort and part of the thing that we're seeing, this moral rot that we're seeing throughout a lot of these corporate media stations, and what's happening right now at CBS, and think about how much worse this is going to get when the merger is completed, right? You're going to have more pressure on these networks because they want to buddy up. They want that access to the Trump White House to bring in more people like that and to try to act like that is kind of, where people are at, even though it is so offensive to just anybody who has like a half a brain cell.
Well, and look, when you gamify politics and it's just a bunch of shouting, it actually makes lots of people want to tune out and not tune in, which is kind of part of the plan. And when corporate media is run by their kind of corporate oligarchical overlords, the media aspect is sometimes a lost leader in their other agenda. And when you can keep the masses very confused and uneducated and wanting to just stay out, they're able to do massive amounts of grift and criming and quid pro quo and market manipulation, because people are just like, I don't like politics. It's all bad. It's gross. I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do and not pay attention to any of it because I don't even want to tune into all of the yelling. And I think I'm just so overwhelmed by all of these things that are happening. And that's a reaction that's I understand why humans would feel that way with all of this being pushed on them. And then you layer on top of it someone who's really loud and obnoxious like Jennings, who's saying, you don't know what you're talking about, and let me explain it. It's like, stop, you're an idiot.
I thought that was Mark Levin for a second.
But that's Mark Levin, all of them. It's just like,
I thought that was Howard Lutnick.
Just give me the
truth.
Does
Ben have one impression?
Yeah, it's one impression. Just give me the truth and tell me what actually is happening. I mean, just think about this morning. You wake up, they announce a fake peace deal. Who does that? You're announcing a fake peace deal that isn't real while everyone knows there's a war going on. You're covering up child sex trafficking rings right now. Like, you're covering up the Epstein files. You have Donald Trump having his DOJ launch a criminal investigation into E. Jean Carroll, who sued Donald Trump in federal court. And a unanimous jury found that Donald Trump sexually assaulted her. A unanimous jury found that Donald Trump sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll and also defamed her about it. Then there was another trial, and Trump was again found liable for defamation. Trump appealed. He lost in front of the Second Circuit Court of Appeal. Trump argued she wasn't telling the truth about this. She wasn't telling the truth about that. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals disagreed. The jury disagreed. The federal judge disagreed. And now a survivor whose rights were vindicated in a court, not a made-up January 6th slush fund with people appointed. No, our system, a court system, a jury, a judge found in favor of E. Jean Carroll. Then Trump launches the Department of Justice to investigate her for saying she lied in the trial that she won. Then you have Donald Trump file lawsuits against the Wall Street Journal using Ghislaine Maxwell as a character witness. Ghislaine Maxwell, when she spoke to my former criminal defense attorney, who's now the top federal prosecutor in the country, the acting AG, said that she didn't know if I actually wrote this letter to Epstein for his 50th birthday. And she put the birthday card together. So if she doesn't know and Wall Street Journal wrote about it, then clearly I'm vindicated and that this is defaming me. And people are like, what are you saying? You're citing Ghislaine Maxwell as your character witness in an amended complaint. You find out that Don Jr. works with a small North Carolina company that all of a sudden got a $650 million loan from the government to do defense work. And now they're valued at $2 billion. And Don Jr. has a heavy, interest or stake in this company and then tried to downplay his role. What are you telling him? Donald Trump wants his face on a $250 bill, which he's not even allowed to do. Living presidents, living people can't put their face on currency. It's against longstanding law. And then you then threaten the Bureau of Engravings to put your face on a 250. You want to create a new currency while inflation is. What's he doing? Whoa. What does the White House look like? What are you building? It looks like a dumpster. You're building this thing that looks like a roller coaster, like some like weird roller coaster county fair from hell in front of the White House. There's this big asbestos pit where the East Wing used to stand. The White House looks like this grotesque demolished thing. What are you doing? You want Milli Vanilli to perform in Vanilla Ice? The way that the Treasury Secretary is holding up Trump $250 bill, and he looks like he's right out of that land where the Grinch lives. He looks like he can be.
He really does look like a who.
You paint the guy green, he looks like the Grinch. I mean, holding up this, you got what in the world? The Milli Vanilli, Vanilla Ice are representing the United States at the 250th anniversary, and then you have some of these other acts are quit. Like, what is happening right now? So I could keep on going on and on and on. He wants to create 24-karat gold horses in the White House, and that's what he's focused on right now. Doing golden horses around Washington, D.C. And so you could wake up and with all of those things that I said, you could be like, all right, I'm just going to go do my job. I'm not going to pay attention to any. I don't like politics. And then I'm going to go and have lunch. And I'm going to go back home. I'm going to watch some Netflix or whatever. I'm going to go to sleep. And I'm going to act like none of this is happening. Okay? That's what a lot of people think. They want to overwhelm you with all of these things. And the problem is, though, where you can't look away is that this stuff is connected to what your lived experience is right now. Your lived experience, why you're suffering, why you struggle to pay rent or pay your mortgage, if you're lucky enough to even have a mortgage, why you work so hard but don't get paid what you deserve, and that your pay isn't commensurate with the rise in inflation, why you can't afford gas or groceries or all of these things, is because they've got you siloed, or they want to distract from all of this while they go and engage in the biggest grift and the biggest looting of your taxpayer money. They're taking your money to enrich themselves while they stock trade from inside the White House. 3,800 stock trades while the market is being manipulated, in my opinion, over and over again. A new trade every 9 damn minutes taking place right now while you're out there being screwed. And then as we approach the midterms, it's the same damn playbook over and over and over again. What do? Ooh, James Tallarico, you a freako. James Freako Tofu Boy. You're transgender, nanny poo poo, six genders. Ooh, do you have a girlfriend? Are you gay? Are you a gay boy? Are you transgender? And it's like, what are you doing? Stop attacking marginalized communities. Stop with this vile rhetoric. Stop with this crap. Stop behaving like elementary school bullies who don't even behave this bad. Treat human beings with humanity. Treat human beings with decency. All humanity deserves to be loved and cherished and their civil rights respected. Are you a vegan? A vegan? Oh, in Texas? You don't like that barbecue? You don't want barbecue? And it's like, I'm an 8th generation Texan. I like barbecue. If I'm vegan, what's wrong with that? If I'm gay, what's wrong with that? If I'm transgender, what's wrong with that? Stop with it. And that's what they go with. That's their whole shtick. Oh, and the immigrants are coming to get you. The illegal aliens. I mean, did you see what they did right before we went live? The White House today was posting, the aliens are coming. We have a new secret initiative that's coming. The aliens this, the alien. People are like, what are you doing? The aliens, they walk among us. And then they release this horrifically like racist thing where they do an illegal alien tracker, because that's what they call migrants, illegal aliens. And they go, instead, countless presidents, congressmen, senior officials knew exactly what was happening. Instead of protecting American citizens, they chose to cover it up and even accelerate the invasion until one man finally had the courage to tell the truth. Then it goes on to say, aliens have been walking among us, living in our neighborhoods, and interacting with us in our daily lives. They've shopped in some of the same stores, attended some of the same classes as our children, and lived seemingly normal human existences, with one exception. They do not belong here. And as you read what they're saying here, this is straight out of a Nazi playbook. Oh, and then God forbid you call them Nazis. God forbid you call them out. God forbid you curse at them. And these little snowflakes, they run and start whining. Wow, you called me a name. Oh, the Democrats are unhinged. Oh, you're calling me names. Like, these idiots get to lie about everything, make up everything that isn't real, bully, name call, dehumanize, round up, use the government to tread on people like never before, invade your privacy, spy on you, all of the stuff they accuse the others they're doing. And you call them out, and what do? It's like Scott Jennings with Adam Mockler. Oh my God. And then even, the Abby Phillips, the host, both of you, calm down. Both of you. What do you mean both of you? Adam Mockler was making points, and then Scott Jennings was like, don't you put your finger, F you. And it's like, they're all like that over and over again. The moment you punch back, they go into victimhood right away. Oh my God, it's so unfair. Your weapon. That's who they are. That's their character right now. We have to recognize what's going on. And you take a look right here. You have the RNC chair, that guy Gruters. He goes on, he's like, all right, Talafrico. This is the head of the RNC. How about you just address what the American people are going through? Here, play this clip.
Because Talafrico is a creep, and he thinks he's a vegan. He thinks God is non-binary. He wants to mutilate children. He wants to put boys in girls' locker rooms. People are done with that. That's, if you looked at the autopsy the Democrats put out, it's simple. All those things and the fact that they are openly supporting communists and socialists. People don't want the United States Senate. Certainly the voters in Texas don't want that. We think Paxton will win. We think it's a red seat. Hands down, we're not going to have any issues heading into November. We're happy with Paxton, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure he's successful.
Well, we're happy with the guy. He was indicted for securities fraud. He was impeached by his own party. He's got the mistress and the guy who he helped, with all the political favors to then get the mistress the job. And then they're living in a house together for millions of dollars, which
his own wife divorced him and cited biblical grounds for the divorce when she divorced him. That's why, they run this playbook every time, right? And we saw them run this playbook, and a lot of people were like, oh, that's why they won in 2024. I don't agree with that. But, maybe this has more power, ironically, when the economy is on the up and up. But when people are suffering and you're still going back to this bullshit, I just don't think it hits the way that they think it hits at this point. And it also just goes to show you, because I feel like I've heard 1,000 times at this point from folks after the 2024 election, and as people are legitimately scared of just elections in general, and Democrats need to nominate the right person, and we need to get away from this Trump scourge. And so you see a lot of people who want to kind of play it safe and who go, what the next, I've heard this from a lot of well-meaning people, like the next Democratic nominee should be, you got to do a straight white guy, because they're not going to be able to go after a straight white guy. Like, listen, you can't be giving him anything. I think the whole Tallarico thing kind of puts that to bed, doesn't it? Like, Tallarico, straight white guy, Christian, an actual Christian. If anything, this is like one of the most black and white moral tests or religious tests, whatever you want to call it, that you could possibly give these voters who consider themselves ultra religious, right? You got an actual religious guy in Tallarico, and then you got this just grotesque person, someone who violates every commandment like Donald Trump in Paxton, and they try to dangle out he's a vegan and all this stuff. I mean, think about the names that they called Joe Biden, who is no leftist, right? They called Joe Biden. They would say he's a communist, he's a Marxist. They would say, but what was Donald Trump's line that he would say at the rallies? He hates God, he's against God, he wants to destroy God. I mean, Joe Biden goes to church every Sunday. Joe Biden has received communion his entire life. Donald Trump, like Paxton, these are all people who are frauds, absolute frauds, violate every single tenet of every religion out there. Yet they will smear people no matter what. They will call Barack Obama a Marxist. They will call Tallarico Tofu Tallarico. They will say Tallarico the vegan. They will say, oh, he's gay, he's a dweeb. They throw all this stuff out. It doesn't matter to them, because the scripts are basically pre-written. They don't have anything to actually sell to people. And so you have going out there, you have someone like a Tallarico speaking about wanting to help people, speaking about the way that he could actually improve people's lives. And the things that you're hearing from people like the head of the RNC are just these smears, just these slurs. And like Ben said, the second you give them 1/100th of that energy, they cry, because the only thing that's more of a superpower, and I don't use that in a positive sense. The only thing that's more of a superpower to them than their shamelessness in their bullying is their shamelessness in playing the victim. They get off on playing the victim. They are perpetual victims. And this is the strategy from Donald Trump to Ken Paxton to Stephen Miller to Scott Jennings, you name it. They're all whiny. That's why you got to stand up to them. And that's why you cannot accept their framing of things. If you're going into whether it's an election or a debate or whatever it is, and your mindset is, I need to adjust the way I'm thinking about this because I want to appeal to this person, or we could win this argument if only we should. It's not going to work. Don't live by their framing. Stand up for your values. The average voter out there isn't thinking in terms of these binaries of left versus right like the corporate media does. It's much more complex. And you'd have a lot of people who Fox might brand as leftists, who would consider themselves actually moderate, who would say, you know what's moderate? Making sure that people have health care, making sure that people could afford to buy homes. I think these are moderate policies, making sure teachers are paid what they're supposed to be paid. But you will have Fox calling those people radical, leftist, Marxist, communist, whatever it is, no matter what. So stop falling for their BS.
And Brett so perfectly said, and we've seen it here at the network too, right? How everyone always tries to frame us, not everyone, but like the Fox Newses of the world, the radical left network, MeidasTouch. It's like, why are we radical left? Because we think people should have healthcare? Because we think people should be paid an actual living wage? That's a radical left policy? I think it says a lot more about you labeling us radical left network than it does about us who want these basic human rights. I mean, what's wrong with you? Why don't you want these basic human rights for people? And Ben, you said it perfectly too, man. The second you try to hold these loser MAGAs accountable and call them out on their BS, they become the world's biggest babies. They play victim, they cry, they try and say, oh, cancel culture. See, look, they always try and cancel me. No, maybe it's just because you're doing horrible shit and you should be called on that people are upset with you, or that they just don't have any more time for your BS. This is a time when I think we sort of reclaim this country in a really positive way and stop allowing these MAGAs to sort of get away with this. Oh, but you're canceling me. No, shut up. You're a loser. Stephen Miller, you're a loser. Dude, you're all ahead of the RNC. You're a loser, dude. And there's nothing wrong with me saying that because you don't care about the American people. There's nothing cool about not caring about the American people. It doesn't make you cool. Are you going to call Tallarico a vegan? Okay, you weirdo. We're going to fight for healthcare. We're going to fight for human rights here in this country and actually try and do some progress here. And y'all could keep, calling us names or this weird stuff, but we're not going to have it.
All right, let's take our last quick break of the show. A quick reminder. Hit subscribe, help us get to 7 million subscribers. We're so close to hitting 7 million subscribers. Let's get there in the next 60 days. Let's get there. I was going to say, let's get there before Donald. I want to see a peace deal entered. So I want the peace deal to beat us to 7 million subscribers. But help us get to 7 million subscribers. Also, become a member. Click join on our YouTube channel. And if you're able to afford memberships, it really helps our channel when you join. And then if you gift memberships to others, the people who can't afford memberships, that goes a long way as well. And it helps grow our channel. Let's take our last quick break of the show. We'll be right back.
You probably know by now that I've been obsessed with Ridge. I use the Ridge wallet, which has been such a game changer for me. And now their new 5-in-1 travel power bank is one of those products where you immediately wonder why nobody thought of this sooner. Every device has a different charger these days. Your phone, your headphones, your Apple Watch, your Kindle, you name it. It's ridiculous. Somehow we have all these AI robots and all these tools, but we still have to travel with 5 tangled cords in our bags. Ridge solved that problem. Their 5-in-1 travel power bank has built-in cables plus MagSafe wireless charging, an Apple Watch charger, Lightning, and USB-C, so you can charge everything with one sleek device. It's got 20 watts of power, a 10,000 mAh battery, and gives you up to 3 full phone charges. And with Father's Day coming up, this is the perfect gift. Every dad has a drawer full of random chargers. I know I do too. And none of them are ever the right one. This is the one device that works for everything. Like everything Ridge makes, it's durable, guaranteed for life, and comes with free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty. One thing to pack, 5 ways to power for a limited time and get up to 40% off during Ridge's huge Father's Day sale at ridge.com/Midas. Don't miss one of their biggest discounts all year. Just head to ridge.com/Midas and you're all set. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Lately, I've been more mindful about how I want to feel when socializing or winding down at night. Instead of defaulting to a drink and hoping for the best the next morning, I've been reaching for Soul's new mood gummies. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you already know how much I love Soul's out-of-office THC gummies and sparkling beverages, and these new mood gummies fit perfectly into my healthy routine. No rough mornings, no bad sleep, no extra calories, no feeling sluggish the next day. Just a more balanced way to relax and enjoy yourself. Soul is a wellness brand that makes delicious hemp-derived CBD and THC products designed to make feeling good simple. What I really like is that the dosing is precise, the ingredients are clean, and the effects feel predictable and controlled. If I need a little boost during the day, I'll go with the Uplift gummies. That's 3 milligrams of sativa THC plus CBG for a bright social vibe. If I'm winding down at night, the Mellow gummies with 3 milligrams of indica THC and CBN are perfect. And the Balance gummies are great anytime, a blend of hybrid THC and CBD that just keeps everything feeling easy and level. 3 moods, 3 intentionally crafted formulas, same great taste. Whatever the moment, there's a Soul mood gummy to match. Make today a good day and get yourself some Soul gummies. Right now, Soul is offering my audience 30% off your entire order. Just go to getsoul.com and use the code Midas. That's getsoul.com, promo code Midas, MEIDAS, for 30% off.
Shout out to our sponsors, y'all. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know we sent you. Brett has raved about both Ridge and Soul in the brothers group chat. So definitely check those out. Use the codes. Good offers there. Benji, where to next?
Let's go to Democratic Senator Coons. He made an appearance on Fox. They wanted to talk constantly about former President Biden's 2024 debate. And I think Senator Coons had the perfect response. Here's what he had to say. Let's play that clip of Senator Coons.
She thought he was having a stroke. It's inexplicable
Martha,
as a wife
look,
why you wouldn't stop the whole thing right then and go straight to a hospital. What's your take on what she's saying now?
Frankly, my take is that as I've gone up and down the state of Delaware in the last couple of days, nobody's asked me about Joe Biden's debate performance in 2024. They've asked me about the rising price of gas. They've asked me about Trump's tariffs. They've asked me about insecurity and instability because of an unresolved war in Iran that is not going well. As someone who cares for President Biden, I too was concerned about what that several second pause meant, what was happening at the moment. But I was with President Biden earlier today. We were at the funeral of a friend of ours, someone who long served as the mayor of Wilmington, and he's fine. I see regular incidents where President Trump falls asleep in meetings in the middle of the day, makes no sense in answering questions. And frankly, what I think the average Delawarean wants to hear is what are we going to do to lower their costs? And what are we going to do to avoid future pointless wars overseas? 2 things President Trump ran on when he was successfully elected in 2024.
Well, I mean, we can go back and forth, on the cognitive abilities of President Trump versus what was quite obvious from President Biden. President Trump answers like 30 to 100 questions every single day from the press. Most days he is
Martha,
a completely.
the question
we
he
never saw
hasn't
President Biden take that risk in a million years of answering questions that way. Yeah, no, I think it is significant because I think there was a lot of cover-up, frankly, of his condition, and I think that you probably were part of that.
What's the goal of the war in Iran? And if the goal of the war in Iran is to prevent Iran from ever having a nuclear weapon, Secretary Hegseth couldn't explain that strategy, and he couldn't explain how the war in Iran is going to help make us more secure and lower the costs that Americans are facing because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. That's what's in front of them. That's where we started in this interview.
Deal with the threats,
and that's what I think we ought to be focusing on.
We have to deal with the threats.
We have to deal with the threats. Sure. Donald Trump's own team said that Iran did not pose an imminent threat. They made the situation. Look, if I'm Iran right now, what are you looking at? You're looking at North Korea, right? Kim Jong-un today bragging about his nukes. Like Kim Jong-un posing for photos in front of gigantic nuclear weapons. Remember when former President Obama would get blamed for every non-nuclear test that Kim Jong-un would do? They'd be like, 8 missiles launched today, and be like, oh my God, Obama wore a tan suit, number one. Number two, Kim Jong-un launched missile tests in the ocean. And it would be like, Obama's fault. Like, okay, but there was no nuclear weapons. There was containment. Obama responded by strengthening alliances with South Korea and Japan. There was a strategy put in place. Biden furthered that strategy of leaning into allies in the Pacific with a kind of a Pacific first strategy, recognizing that's how you contain Kim Jong-un. That's how you contain China. That's how you contain Russia. That's part of your geopolitical framework. And so if you're Iran, you're like, okay, every day that passes, why don't we use this to, why don't we use this to our advantage Iran's claimed publicly, this is what they've said. There was a religious edict to this extent, and they've said publicly, we just want uranium enrichment for civilian purposes. Whether you believe that or not, that's what they've said. You had the JCPOA, which inspected it and showed that they were complying with the international support of the JCPOA. If they didn't comply, you'd be able to have massive public support at an international level to take action at the UN level through multilateral processes and not just kind of go it alone, Donald Trump and Netanyahu. But if you're Iran, there's no reason that you would allow the Strait of Hormuz out of your control. You may open it, but you'd still want to control it, because if there's a violation, you know the lever is to close it. And you're looking at North Korea and you're saying, got it. We need a nuclear weapon, because that's the only way to stop this constant barrage. And North Korea said today, Kim Jong-un says, there will absolutely and forever be no denuclearization of North Korea. That was their statement. By the way, you won't hear this make a headline pretty much anywhere, other than a few places, right? Like, that's a pretty big story. Also, you won't hear that Israel demolished the entire city or major parts of the city of Tyre, T-Y-R-E, they call it Sur in Arabic, escalating things there. You won't hear about. You'll just, Donald Trump says there's a ceasefire. No, there's not. There's not a ceasefire. And others are reporting that Israel's pushing behind the scenes for Trump to kill, for the United States to assassinate MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader and lead negotiator. And that seemed to be the strategy the entire time, right as this war was about to start and starting. Kill all of the negotiators. You all remember Ali Larijani? He was one of the chief. We don't hear his name because he got killed, early on. He was, in terms of finding a moderate voice, he was one of the more moderate voices there to do a deal with. And you kill Larijani, and who do you get? You get this guy Vahidi, who's an IRGC, lifer, who's out there and is far more entrenched than Larijani, and so that's where this goes. And as a result of, this destructive policy, as I mentioned, this new international security architecture being formed, we saw Canada and Prime Minister Carney agreed to purchase the Saab GlobalEye from Sweden. They're still doing their reevaluation of the F-35s, where I think Canada is moving closer to getting the Gripen, which is the fighter jet that competes with the F-35. But for now, Canada did not buy the United States E-7, which is the model above the Century, which is the E-3 AWAC. Canada went and bought the GlobalEye and announced that at CANSEC, which is the big Canadian Defense Forum. We saw a big announcement between Norway and France. Norway saying it's agreeing to participate in France's security umbrella, that France has worked with the UK, Poland, Lithuania, other countries projecting nuclear strength. You saw a meeting between the UK and Poland entering into defense alliances there. The world is changing. The world is shifting. We cover it every day. And the U.S., you had Marco Rubio show up in New Delhi There was no one to visit, no one to really greet him when he showed up in India. It was this bizarre trip that he took to India where no fanfare. Modi didn't even want to meet with him. He seemed, it's like, it's like Loserville with the United States right now. And so, as I mentioned, what does it do? Attacks fishing boats in the Pacific, and Southcom announced more murders of people in fishing boats. The U.S. secretly entering into a deal with Guatemala to start blowing up things in Guatemala and claiming they're a narco-terrorist that it's blowing up there. Same type of arrangement it has in Ecuador. What the bigger picture is, as Maria Habib explains, is normalize the presence of U.S. troops bombing things throughout the Western Hemisphere and basically encircle Mexico to do a soft invasion of Mexico and to start bombing sites in Mexico at will to assert hegemony over Mexico. You see the U.S. Circling Cuba and threatening to invade Cuba. And guess where the Trump regime went to give information about the Cuba invasion today? Axios. Axios was reporting today that there may be so much chaos erupting in Cuba as a result of the sanctions and the blockade that the people of Cuba are getting ready to rise up against the Cuban regime, and that the Trump regime is making preparations for summer war plans if the Cuban people rise up. And it's just, I want you to think about this with the way U.S. propaganda is being used to support a 1 trillion or 1.5 trillion military industrial complex. Think about that propaganda machine when it's turned on against James Tallarico. When that machine is turned on against Gavin Newsom. When that machine is turned on against whoever. Think about it. When they say, oh, it looks like Newsom cares more about smelt fish than the fires. And you go, well, that's ridiculous. No one believes that. And then they pump that every day. Newsom forgot to turn on the faucet, everybody. And if he turned on the faucet, we could have put out the fire. Like, come on. Nobody believes such a thing. And then they pump that every day. And then before you know it, you start speaking to people about it. And by the way, people who aren't just even right-wing people, and they're like, hey, you hear about the smelt? Like, no, come on, that's reaching you? There's not a smelt issue. What are you talking about? And so we should never forget that this entire apparatus is being created here to manipulate minds, brainwash, hoist up the oligarchy, allow the rich to get richer, allow the corruption to happen in plain view and let them get away with it while they pillage, loot, and steal and crime. And that it's not just simply MAGA, it's part of an international authoritarian fascist movement. You look at what's going on in Europe, you look at the movements there that are taking place. You look at, Putin's tactics, you look at what's happening. And there's a broader force at play here. And ultimately, when we talked about the Epstein files and the Epstein class, I think one of the big revelations is that the group of people who told you that they were going after the cabal were the cabal. And they were saying these things that sounded so outlandish, but they were the ones puppeteering these events. Bitcoin in 2012, 2013. Epstein's talking about it there. Manipulation of currency before Russia annexes Crimea. Epstein's on the emails talking about it all. The meetings before Helsinki with Trump and Putin. Epstein's talking about meeting with Lavrov to prep before that meeting took place. I like the movie Forrest Gump, so I don't want to bring Forrest Gump in here, but, being compare Epstein to Forrest Gump, but like Epstein was in all of these places. And so one of the reasons that Trump, for many reasons, wanted to suppress the Epstein files is because, what was the game? Like 7 Degrees of Bacon, Kevin Bacon. I remember that growing up or whatever. One of the threads that linked this class of people together who were using child sex trafficking, in my opinion, as some of their currency to blackmail each other and victimizing people in the most disgusting way imaginable. But they were out there manipulating the markets and manipulating the destruction of liberal democracies across the world. And you had them coordinating in different countries about the destruction of liberal democracies everywhere. Within destruction and chaos and global tumult, the corrupt are able to loot. And that's a dynamic that we're seeing play out here right now. And I think people are wise to it, but they got $1 trillion media machine to pump out that propaganda to try to keep people brainwashed. And so I think our job is to use this network, to use this channel, to use our platform, which isn't as big in terms of the structure, financing, coordination that they have. But we know we've got people on our side to get out these messages, to give these warnings, to let you know the hustle so we can see it, call it out in real time and try to defeat it. And try to defeat it not for Democrats, not for this political party, because this is international scope, for humanity, for truth, so we can go about our lives and not deal with these tyrants and authoritarians from constantly treading on us, harassing us, assaulting us, trying to steal from us, rip away our futures and the futures of future generations. So I'll leave it at that, because I think it ties it all together, especially as Pam Bondi is set to speak, but not testify. She won't testify under oath. Won't do that. Won't go under video camera, apparently, but she will be talking informally to the House Oversight Committee. Okay, got it.
Well, if you take a broader perspective of the concept of the Epstein class and a lot of things that Ben was speaking about with Epstein, I think you could also call it the predator class. And if you're viewing all the actions right now that we're seeing and all the things that we spoke about throughout this episode through the lens of a predator, I think everything kind of makes sense. I mean, think about what the United States is doing in Latin America. Think about what the United States is doing in the Middle East. Think about the tactics they're using in Cuba right now. Think about what the United States does to Canada, to our EU allies. Think about what the United States does domestically to people here at home. The threats that they have been pushing now to threaten international travel and say that we may ban international travel into cities that allow immigrants in. And they're targeting blue cities. They're saying we may actually do everything seems like an attack. Everything is an assault. What they're doing to E. Jean Carroll. Predators. And that also only works if they have the backing of propaganda of billions and billions of dollars that are justifying that in flowery language, that are justifying that by the same way that these people play the victim with Adam Mockler on CNN and go, whoa, your hands in my face. Stop effing attacking me. What the F are you doing? That's what they do on a much grander scale in all of these geopolitical aspects. Oh, whoa. Is that a drug boat? Boom, explosion. Whoa. Were you going to send some nukes my way? Explosion, boom, war. It's just the strategy that they use, and they play the victim. They use that propaganda to realign, to reposition what's kind of actually going on. And I got to say, it's incredibly effective. It's very potent. But that's why, I think part of what we do here is just making you kind of aware to it. And I think if you've seen just the way that the attacks on someone like a Tallarico have ramped up since Paxton got the nomination, you see what it's like when that machine kicks in. It's like they flick a switch, right? And it's just boom, 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 boom. It's coordinated. It's well-funded. And it is so brazen that to me, it should be like, oh, they had a meeting about this. This is the most obvious thing in the world. But most people aren't that critical in the way that they think about the media that they consume, like this audience here. And so that's why one of the things, I think that's important that we do as all of us here is continue to spread the word and continue to call this stuff out and to show just how these propaganda networks are manipulating you and are manipulating the American people.
Well said, Brett. Such an honor to be able to spend each and every day with you, whether you're listening on audio, whether you're watching on YouTube, just taking this journey with you together during these very difficult times is something that is deeply rewarding for me. And I've heard so much of your comments that this network is helpful for you, but this network is helpful for me. We're in this together. It's helpful for us. And I think we always need to stick together during very difficult times, help each other. When someone needs to rest, pick up the slack for each other, but hold the line. Hold the line. Before we know it, there'll be midterms. Before we know it, there'll be elections. And we need to continue to hold the line every single day. We'll get through this. And then when we get through this, we can reflect on this time and work to create structures to make sure this never happens again and build a better life for future generations and to leave the world a better place and to know that when we get out together on the other side of this, that we put it all out there on the line, that every damn day we were out there fighting for what was right, fighting for love and empathy and equality and civil rights, uplifting, not punching down, supporting each other, working towards peace, not war, supporting democracy, fighting back against fascism. That's what we do each and every day. So hit subscribe, help us get to 7 million subscribers. You may think that you're subscribed, but guess what? You may not actually be subscribed. Double check, join and become a member. The memberships have been very helpful in our growth. It's been helpful for our expansion. Thanks to you. And so if you're able to afford YouTube membership by clicking join, you may be able to gift YouTube memberships to people. Gift a membership to others who can't afford it. Let them get access as well to the special features here. It's been a great one, everybody. Let's keep on fighting together. Thank you, and I'll let Jordy finish the show.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.